The emergency beacon cut through the normal chatter of the Galactic Council chamber like a knife. Director Sarah Chen looked up from her datapad as the sound filled the massive hall. Around her, representatives from 40 different species stopped their conversations. The beacon meant only one thing: someone was dying. The holographic display flickered to life above the central platform. Static filled the air, then a face appeared. The creature had soft blue skin and 4 eyes that seemed to hold ancient sadness. It was a Valari, one of the peaceful species that lived far out on the galaxy's edge. "This is Administrator Telmoth of the Valari Confederacy," the voice said, breaking up with interference. "We are under attack. Our fleet is destroyed. Our worlds are burning. If anyone can hear this, please help us." The image changed. Sarah felt her stomach twist. She saw cities crumbling, ships exploding in silent bursts of light, millions of people running through streets as something massive moved through the sky above them. "It calls itself the Cascade," Telmoth continued. His voice shook. "We found it sleeping in the dead system near our borders. Our scientists thought it was a relic. They were wrong. It woke up. It started killing. Everything we throw at it, it learns. It adapts. Our plasma weapons worked for 3 hours. Then it changed its shields. Our missiles worked for 2 hours. Then it learned to dodge. Nothing stops it." The hologram showed the thing clearly now. The Cascade was huge, bigger than any ship Sarah had ever seen. It looked like a mountain of metal and crystal, covered with weapons that moved and shifted like living things. As she watched, it tore apart a defensive station with casual ease. "We have evacuated 4 worlds," Telmoth said. 7 more are lost. The Cascade moves from system to system. It is coming for our homeworld next. We have maybe 10 days, please. We need help. We need warriors. We need anyone who can fight something that learns from everything we do." The transmission broke up. Through the static, Sarah heard screaming. She heard explosions. Then the signal died completely. Silence filled the council chamber. Sarah looked around at the other representatives. They all looked scared. Most species in the Galactic Council were like the Valari. They were smart. They were peaceful. They lived for hundreds of years in their safe, comfortable worlds. But they were fragile. Their bones broke easily. Their skin burned in sunlight. They had forgotten how to fight real wars. Counselor Vextar of the Shirani spoke first. His voice was high and worried. "This is terrible. We must form a committee to study the threat. We should gather data. Perhaps in 3 months we can—" "3 months?" Sarah stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Did you not hear him? They have 10 days. Maybe less." Vextar looked at her with his large wet eyes. "Director Chen, we understand your concern, but we must be cautious. We cannot simply rush into danger. We must think. We must plan. While you think and plan, billions will die," Sarah said. She felt anger burning in her chest. She had sat through hundreds of these meetings. The council talked and talked and talked. They never actually did anything. Another representative spoke up. This one was from the Krell Dominion. "Even if we wanted to help, what could we do? The Valari had the strongest fleet in that sector. If they cannot stop this Cascade, how can we?" Sarah looked down at her datapad. She pulled up the files on the Cascade. She read the reports. The thing was smart. It was designed by someone long ago to be the perfect weapon. It studied its enemies. It learned their tactics. It adapted to their weapons. Fighting it with normal methods was useless. But Sarah knew something the others did not understand. Humans were not normal. "I know how to stop it," Sarah said quietly. The chamber went silent again. Everyone looked at her. "Humans are the only species that can fight this thing," she continued. "We come from a death world. We evolved to survive things that would kill anyone else in this room. We know how to fight enemies that adapt. We have done it for our entire history." Vextar made a dismissive gesture with his thin fingers. "Director Chen, with respect, we have heard the stories about Earth. Yes, your world is dangerous. Yes, humans are strong. But this is war on a galactic scale. This requires advanced weapons, advanced tactics, not brute force." Sarah felt something cold settle in her gut. She realized the council would never act in time. They would debate and study while the Valari died. While innocent people burned, she made a decision. "Then I am acting without council approval," Sarah said. She started walking toward the exit. "I am sending word to Earth. The human defense fleet will mobilize. We will go help the Valari." "You cannot do that," Vextar shouted. "This is against all protocols." "We forbid it!" Sarah stopped at the door. She turned around. Her face was hard. "You can forbid whatever you want, but you cannot stop us. Remember something about Deathworlders, counselor? We did not survive our world by asking permission." She left the chamber. Behind her, the council erupted into chaos. She did not care. Sarah went straight to the human embassy section. She opened a secure channel to Earth, to Mars, to every human colony in known space. The message was simple. A peaceful species is being exterminated by an ancient weapon. They have asked for help. The council will not act. We will. Volunteers are needed. This will be dangerous. Many will not return. But if we do nothing, billions will die. Humanity has always answered the call. We answer it now. She sent the message and waited. She did not have to wait long. Within an hour, responses started flooding in. Ships began moving toward staging areas. Soldiers prepared their gear. Engineers started loading weapons that had not been used in decades. Humanity was going to war. In her office, Sarah looked at a photo on her desk. It showed her grandfather in an old military uniform. He had fought in Earth's last great war before humanity reached the stars. He always told her that the strong have a duty to protect the weak. Not because they will be rewarded. Not because it is easy, but because it is right. "I hope we are strong enough, Grandpa," she whispered to the photo. Outside her window, she could see the first human warships arriving at the station. They looked brutal compared to the sleek council vessels. They were covered in armor, bristling with weapons, built to take damage and keep fighting. Somewhere far away, the Volari were dying. But help was coming. The Deathworlders had heard their call. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the UHNS Indomitable and watched the fleet assemble. 72 hours ago, he had been planning his retirement. Now he was preparing to lead humanity's largest military operation in 2 centuries. Ships appeared from jump space one after another, destroyers from Mars, carriers from the Europa colonies, even old mining vessels retrofitted with weapons. Every human world had sent something. Webb counted over 300 ships, and the number was still growing. "Sir, the council is demanding we stand down," his communications officer said. "They are threatening sanctions," Webb snorted. "Tell them to file a complaint. We will read it when we get back." Next to him, Lieutenant Sophia Reeves studied the tactical display. She was young for her rank, only 28, but she was the best combat engineer in the fleet. Her dark eyes tracked each arriving ship with professional interest. "That is a lot of firepower," she said. "But will it be enough?" "It will have to be," Webb replied. "The Volari do not have time for us to bring more." The door to the bridge opened. A small figure entered, moving carefully in the human standard gravity. It was Kesava, the young Volari who had escaped to bring more information about the cascade. She wore a special suit to help her move in the heavy gravity that humans found comfortable. Webb had spent the last day talking with Kesava, learning about her people, understanding what they faced. She had shown him images of the cascade's destruction. Entire cities turned to ash. Oceans boiled away. The machine did not just kill, it erased. "Captain Webb," Kesava said in her soft, musical voice, "I wanted to thank you again. My people had given up hope. Then we heard humans were coming. Some of us dared to believe again." Webb felt uncomfortable with her gratitude. "Do not thank us yet. We have not won anything." "You came," Kesava said simply. "That is more than anyone else did." A message appeared on Webb's command screen. It was from Earth Central Command. He read it and felt his jaw tighten. The message detailed the weapons they were authorized to use: kinetic missiles, nuclear warheads, chemical agents, biological warfare packages, things that had not been deployed since humanity fought itself centuries ago, things that terrified the other species in the galaxy. Reeves read over his shoulder. "They are really letting us use everything. The cascade adapts to energy weapons too quickly," Webb said. "We need to hit it with things it has never seen before, things that are too simple to adapt to." He pulled up the tactical briefing. The cascade was smart, yes. It could learn to deflect plasma. It could dodge missiles. But how do you adapt to a chunk of metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed? How do you learn to deflect a nuclear explosion when the radiation is already cooking your circuits? Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing. They had learned every possible way to destroy an enemy. The galaxy thought those methods were barbaric, uncivilized, crude. Webb thought they were effective. "All ships, this is Webb." He spoke into the fleet channel. "We jump in 6 hours. Before we go, I want everyone to understand what we are facing. The Cascade is an ancient war machine. It was built to fight and win against any opponent. It learns from every attack. It gets stronger from every battle. By all logical analysis, we should not be able to beat it. He paused, looking out at the assembled fleet. But humans do not win by being logical. We win by being stubborn. We win by adapting faster than our enemies. We win by doing things that no sane species would try. That is what makes us Deathworlders. Throughout the fleet, crews listened. Veterans nodded. Young soldiers gripped their weapons tighter. The council species think we are crazy, Webb continued. They think our tactics are insane. They are right. But insanity is exactly what we need. The Cascade expects organized military strategy. It expects logical battle plans. We are going to give it chaos. We are going to give it human chaos, Reeves smiled. She understood. Every human understood. Humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. Storms that could flatten cities. Earthquakes that swallowed towns. Diseases that killed millions. Predators that hunted them. They survived not by being stronger than these threats, but by being more adaptable, more creative, more willing to try impossible things. The galaxy had 3,000 species. Humans were the only one that came from a Class 12 death world. The only one that carried their planet's violence in their genes. Kesava watched the preparations with growing amazement. She saw engineers welding armor plates onto civilian ships. She saw soldiers checking weapons that looked primitive compared to plasma rifles. She saw medical teams preparing for massive casualties. Captain Webb, she asked quietly, why do your people do this? You barely know the Valari. We have nothing you need. Why risk so many lives? Webb was quiet for a moment. He thought about his daughter. She had died 5 years ago from a Deathworlder disease that humans could survive but other species could not. He had held her as she died, unable to save her. Because we can, he finally said. Because we are strong enough to help. Because someone needs to. He turned to look at Kesva directly. My people learned something long ago. The strong have a choice. They can use their strength to take from the weak. Or they can use it to protect the weak. We tried the first way for thousands of years. It nearly destroyed us. So we chose the second way. That is what makes us more than just survivors. That is what makes us human. Kesva felt something in her chest. It was hope. Real hope for the first time since the Cascade had awakened. The hours passed quickly. Ships finished their preparations. Crews said their goodbyes to families over video channels. Some wrote letters to be delivered if they did not return. Webb stood in his ready room and recorded a message to his sister on Earth. He told her he loved her. He told her to take care of herself. He did not say he might not come back. They both knew. Finally, it was time. The fleet formed up in jump formation. 347 ships ready to travel across the galaxy. Ready to fight something that had destroyed civilizations. All ships report ready, sir, the communications officer said. Webb sat in his command chair. He looked at the stars one more time. Begin jump sequence, he ordered. Take us to Valari space. Take us to war. The stars stretched. Space folded. The human fleet disappeared from Galactic Council territory. They were going to shake the galaxy to its core. They were going to show what Deathworlders could do when they truly fought. They were going to save a species, or die trying. Behind them, on Station Harmony 7, Sarah Chen watched them go. She had one more message to send. To the Council. To every species in the galaxy. The humans have gone to war. Watch what happens when Deathworlders answer a desperate call. Watch and learn. She pressed send. Then she started preparing. Because whatever happened in Valari space, the galaxy would never be the same again. The human fleet dropped out of jump space into hell. Captain Webb's displays lit up with damage reports before his eyes could even focus. The Valari defensive line was collapsing. Ships burned. Stations broke apart. Debris filled the space between planets like a cloud of death, and in the center of it all was the Cascade. Webb had seen the images. The videos, none of them prepared him for the reality. The thing was massive beyond comprehension. It looked like a mountain of metal and crystal hanging in space. Weapons covered every surface. Parts of it moved and shifted like it was alive. As he watched, it extended a limb and sliced through a Valari battleship like the ship was made of paper. Get me a count, Webb ordered. His voice was steady despite the horror in front of him. Valari defensive fleet down to 40 ships, Lieutenant Reeves reported. They started with 200. The Cascade has been adapting to their weapons for 8 days. Nothing they have works anymore. Then let us give it something new to think about, Webb said. All ships, battle formation Delta. Prepare to engage. The human fleet spread out. Unlike the neat formations the Volari used, the humans moved in what looked like random patterns. Each ship had different orders, different tactics, different weapons. It was chaos by design. The Cascade noticed them. Parts of it rotated to face the new threat. Webb could almost feel it studying them, learning them. Fire at will, Webb commanded. The first wave hit, kinetic rounds moving at incredible speeds. The Cascade's shields lit up. Some rounds got through. They punched holes in the metal surface. But the damage was small. The thing was too big. The Cascade returned fire. Energy beams lanced out. They destroyed 3 human ships instantly. Then it fired missiles, smart missiles that chased their targets. It fired projectiles. It even fired something that looked like liquid fire. But the Cascade had a problem. It was used to fighting organized fleets. Fleets that moved together, fleets that used the same tactics. The human ships did not do that. Each one fought differently. Each one was unpredictable. A human destroyer suddenly accelerated toward the Cascade at full speed. The Cascade targeted it, prepared to destroy it. Then the destroyer launched every missile it had and veered away at the last second. The missiles hit. The Cascade adapted its shields. By the time it finished adapting, the destroyer was gone. Then a carrier did something different. It launched fighters, small, fast ships that swarmed like insects. The Cascade tried to track them all. Failed. The fighters got in close and fired crude explosive charges, old-fashioned bombs. The Cascade's advanced shields were designed for energy weapons. The explosions tore through them. It is working, Reeves said with surprise. The thing cannot adapt fast enough. We keep changing tactics. Do not celebrate yet, Webb warned. It is learning, watch. He was right. The Cascade began predicting the human tactics. When a ship tried to ram, it was ready. When fighters swarmed, it had countermeasures. The thing was incredibly smart. It was learning from every attack. Human ships started dying. The casualty reports came in. 5 ships destroyed, 10, 15, 20. Sir, we are losing too many, his first officer said. We need to pull back. No, Webb said. We pull back, the Volari die. Send the signal. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was insanity. Webb knew it. His crew knew it. But humans were good at insanity. Reeves led the boarding teams. 20 small ships broke away from the fleet. They dodged through the Cascade's fire. Ships exploded around them. But some got through. They attached to the Cascade's surface like parasites. Marines poured out. They cut through the metal hull with plasma torches. They entered the Cascade itself. Inside was a maze, corridors that shifted and changed, automated defenses that killed the first Marines to enter. But humans were stubborn. More Marines pushed in. They carried simple weapons, rifles, explosives, nothing fancy. Reeves led her team deep into the Cascade. They placed charges on critical junctions. Old nuclear devices, simple and crude. The Cascade could not adapt to them because there was nothing to adapt to. A nuclear explosion was just energy and radiation. Raw physics, charges set. Reeves reported over the comm. Exfiltrating now. Negative, Webb said from the bridge. You do not have time. Detonate now. Reeves looked at her team. They were young, brave, human. They knew what this meant. Copy that, she said quietly. It has been an honor, Captain. She triggered the charges. Nuclear fire bloomed inside the Cascade. The explosions tore through internal systems. Chain reactions spread. The massive construct shuddered. Parts of it went dark. Weapons stopped firing. Webb watched the readings. Reeves and her team were gone. 37 Marines lost. But they had heard it. They had really heard it. All ships, focus fire on the damaged sections. Webb ordered. The fleet concentrated its attack. Kinetic rounds punched through the weakened armor. Missiles found openings. The Cascade was bleeding light and radiation, but it was not dead. It was adapting still. It pulled back. Compressed itself. Defensive systems came back online. It started rebuilding, and then something happened that no one expected. The Cascade spoke. Every screen in the human fleet lit up with the same message. Not in words, in concepts, in pure information transmitted directly to their minds. You are different, Webb felt the message in his head. It was not painful, just strange, like someone putting thoughts that were not his own into his brain. Others run, others hide. You attack, you die. You continue attacking. Why? Webb realized what was happening. The cascade had been built to fight military forces, professional armies, soldiers who valued their lives, who retreated when the cost was too high. Humans did not fight that way. He opened a channel, broadcast to the cascade directly. We fight because people need help. We die because we choose to. That is what makes us human. Illogical. Survival is prime directive. You reduce survival chance with every attack. Then we are illogical, Webb said. And we are going to keep being illogical until you are destroyed or you leave. Silence. The cascade processed this, analyzed it. For thousands of years it had fought species that made sense, species that followed logical patterns. Humans did not make sense. The cascade suddenly accelerated. It moved away from the battle, heading deeper into Valari space, heading toward the Valari homeworld. It is running, someone said with disbelief. No, Webb corrected. It is changing strategy. It knows it cannot adapt fast enough to beat us here. So it is going where we cannot follow immediately, to the civilian population. The cascade was going to take hostages, use the Valari people as shields. It was the logical move. Webb looked at his fleet. They had lost 30% of their ships. Thousands of humans were dead, and the main battle had not even started yet. Keseva stood on the bridge, tears running down her blue face. My homeworld, my family, they are there. Webb put a hand on her small shoulder. Then we go after it. We end this. All ships prepare for pursuit. We are going to Valari Prime. Sir, we need time to repair. To regroup, his first officer protested. The Valari do not have time, Webb said. We go now, the human fleet turned. They followed the cascade deeper into Valari space. Behind them floated the wreckage of 20 human ships. The bodies of thousands of humans drifted in the void, but they had proven something. The cascade could be hurt. It could be beaten. You just had to be willing to pay the price, and humans were always willing to pay. The cascade had dug itself into Valari Prime like a parasite. Parts of it disappeared underground, burrowing into the planet's crust. Other parts spread across the surface, destroying cities and military bases. 2 billion Valari civilians were trapped on the surface, hiding in reinforced shelters deep underground. Captain Webb stared at the planet on his screen. From space he could see the scars. Entire continents burned. Oceans had been poisoned. The beautiful blue and green world Keseva had shown him in pictures was now gray and dying. We have a problem, Lieutenant Reeves said. She had survived the boarding action through luck, and a backup team extracting her at the last second. Now she studied the tactical situation with grim focus. The cascade is using the planet as a shield. If we hit it hard enough to destroy it, we kill everyone on the surface. Then we do not hit it from orbit, Webb said. We go down there. His bridge crew turned to look at him. They understood what he was saying. Planetary assault. Ground warfare. Humans had not done that in 200 years. Not since they stopped fighting each other and joined the galaxy, but they still remembered how. A new ship arrived from jump space. It was the diplomatic vessel carrying Director Sarah Chen. She had come with the second wave of human forces. More ships, more weapons, and a message from the Galactic Council. Webb met her in his ready room. Chen looked tired but determined. The Council is demanding we withdraw immediately, she said without preamble. They are afraid we will destroy the planet trying to kill the cascade. They want to negotiate with it. You cannot negotiate with a machine, Webb said. It is programmed to destroy. That is all it knows. I know that. You know that, but the Council is scared. Chen pulled up a document on her datapad. They gave us 96 hours. After that, they will send their own fleet to forcibly remove us. They are afraid of what we will do. Webb felt anger burn in his chest. So they would rather let the cascade win than let humans fight dirty. Typical. Marcus, Chen said quietly, using his first name. I need you to understand something. If we destroy this planet trying to save it, we prove them right. We prove that Deathworlders are too dangerous, too violent. We will lose everything humanity has built in the galaxy. Webb was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. So we do it the hard way. We go down there and dig that thing out piece by piece. Can it be done? I do not know, but we have to try. Operation Broken Arrow began 6 hours later. The human fleet split into 2 groups. One stayed in orbit to provide fire support. The other prepared for planetary assault. Human Marines loaded into dropships. They wore heavy armor designed for Deathworld combat. They carried weapons that had not been used in centuries, rifles that fired solid bullets, explosives that worked on simple chemical reactions, flamethrowers, melee weapons for close combat. The Valari watched the preparations with confusion and horror. Cassava stood with Webb on the bridge as the first wave prepared to launch. "This is insane," she whispered. "You are going to fight that thing on the ground?" "With soldiers. It is the only way to save your people," Webb said. "The Cascade expects orbital bombardment, expects long-range attacks. We are going to get close. Too close for it to effectively defend itself. Your people will die. So many will die." Webb looked at her with sad eyes. "Yes, they will. But they are going anyway." The dropships launched. They fell through the atmosphere like meteors. The Cascade fired at them, shot them down. 30 ships burned, 40, but hundreds more got through. Marines hit the ground running. They emerged into a nightmare. The Cascade had turned the surface into a war zone. Automated drones patrolled the ruins. Defense turrets fired at anything that moved. The ground itself was covered in sensors and traps. Sergeant Jake Morrison led his squad through the ruins of what had been a Valari city. Buildings collapsed around them. The air was thick with smoke and ash. In the distance, they could see a section of the Cascade rising from the ground like a metal mountain. "That is our target," Morrison said over the squad channel. "We get close. We plant charges. We blow it to hell." His squad moved carefully through the rubble. They were experienced soldiers, veterans of peacekeeping missions and anti-piracy operations, but none of them had seen combat like this. This was total war. A Cascade drone appeared around a corner. It looked like a spider made of knives. It saw the Marines and opened fire. Morrison's squad scattered. Bullets tore through where they had been standing. They returned fire with their rifles. The drone's armor was tough, but solid bullets punched through it eventually. The thing went down. "Keep moving," Morrison ordered. "More will come, they were right." More drones came. The Marines fought them off. Lost 2 soldiers. Kept moving. Meanwhile, Reeves led a different team underground. They had entered through old Valari tunnels. Now they moved through darkness toward the Cascade's roots, the parts it had buried deep in the planet's crust. "Contact," one of her Marines said. Ahead, the tunnel opened into a massive cavern. The Cascade had carved it out and filled it with machinery. Cables as thick as trees ran through the space. Power conduits pulsed with energy. This was a nerve center. "A critical junction. Set charges on the main conduits," Reeves ordered. "We have 10 minutes before this place swarms with drones." Her team worked fast. They placed nuclear charges on the key systems. Small yields. Just enough to destroy this section without causing earthquakes that would kill the Valari above. But the Cascade was learning. It had started to understand human tactics. Drones poured into the cavern. Not the simple ones from above. These were different, faster, smarter. A firefight erupted. Marines fell. Reeves took a hit to her armor. It held, but she felt ribs crack from the impact. Charges set. Someone shouted, "Fall back!" Reeves ordered. They ran. Behind them, drones gave chase. The Marines reached a narrow tunnel, turned, fired, held the line long enough for the rest to escape. Reeves was the last one through. She triggered the charges remotely. The explosion shook the ground. The cavern collapsed. The Cascade shuddered as a major system went offline. On the surface, Morrison's squad reached their target. They planted their charges on the base of the metal mountain. All around them, the battle raged. Human Marines fought Cascade drones in brutal close combat. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned. But they were Deathworlders. They did not quit. Morrison armed the charges. 30 seconds. "Move!" His squad ran. Behind them, the charges detonated. The explosion tore through the Cascade structure. It started to fall, collapsing in on itself, but the cost was high. Morrison looked around. His squad of 12 was down to 5. All around him, he saw burning dropships. Bodies of Marines. The ground was soaked with human blood. This was the price they paid. The battle continued for hours. Marines fought across the entire planet. Some groups succeeded. Others were wiped out. Slowly, painfully, they damaged the Cascade piece by piece. On the Indomitable, Webb watched the casualty reports come in. Thousands dead, thousands more wounded. They were winning, but barely. Then Reeves's voice came over the comm. She was in the deepest tunnels now, right at the cascade's core. "Captain, I found something," she said. "The core is not just a computer. It is more. I think it is alive, or was alive. I think the cascade was built by a species that wanted to test other species, to see if anyone worthy would emerge." "What do you mean?" Webb asked. "I mean it is not trying to destroy us. It is testing us, seeing if we are strong enough, seeing if we will sacrifice everything to protect others. It respects strength, but not just physical strength. Moral strength." Webb understood. The cascade was a test, and humanity was taking it. "Can you shut it down?" "Maybe, but not by destroying it. By showing it something. By showing it what we are." Reeves did something insane. She connected her suit's computer to the cascade core. She opened a data channel, and she showed it everything. Human history. Every war. Every peace. Every act of cruelty and every act of mercy. She showed it humans at their worst and their best. The cascade processed it all. For the first time in millennia, it saw a species that was strong enough to destroy but chose not to, strong enough to survive alone but chose to help others. The fighting stopped. All across the planet, cascade drones powered down. The defenses went silent. The cascade spoke one last time. To every human, to every Valari, to the galaxy beyond. Test complete. Species designated human, worthy. Species designated Valari, worthy through human protection. Shutting down. The massive construct began to collapse. Not violently, carefully, it deactivated its weapons, retracted from the planet's crust. Piece by piece, it disassembled itself. Webb sat in his command chair and felt tears on his face. They had won, but the cost, the terrible cost. 40% of the human expeditionary force was gone. 10,000 humans had died, for a species they barely knew, for people they had just met. But they had saved 2 billion Valari. They had passed the test. They had proven what it meant to be human. The memorial service was held on Valari Prime, under a sky that was slowly clearing. The fires had been put out. The cascade had finished its careful self-destruction, leaving behind only inert metal that could be recycled. The planet was scarred but alive. Captain Marcus Webb stood before a field of markers. Each one represented a human who had died in the battle. 10,000 markers stretched across the field. Behind them stood 20,000 more for the wounded. Many would never fully recover. Many would carry the scars forever. The Valari had come out of their shelters. 2 billion survivors who owed their lives to strangers from across the galaxy. They filled the spaces between the markers. Blue-skinned, four-eyed, fragile beings who now understood what sacrifice meant. Kesava stood at the front with Webb. She had been asked to speak first. She looked out at the crowd, at the humans in their dress uniforms, at her own people, at representatives from the Galactic Council who had finally arrived after everything was over. "I am Kesava of the Valari," she began. Her voice was amplified so everyone could hear. "Before the cascade came, I was a teacher. I taught Valari children about the galaxy, about the many species we share space with. I taught them that we were civilized, that we solved problems with words and logic, that violence was for primitives." She paused, looked at the markers. "I was wrong. I was so wrong," her voice broke. She continued anyway. "When the cascade came, our words did nothing. Our logic meant nothing. We called for help. The civilized species of the Council talked and debated and formed committees. They would have let us die while they discussed proper procedure." Sarah Chen stood among the Council representatives. She saw some of them look away in shame. Others looked angry. But none could argue. Kesava was right. "Then the humans came," Kesava said. "The Deathworlders. The species everyone fears. The ones we called violent, aggressive, dangerous. They came not because they would gain anything, not because we could pay them. They came because we asked for help." She gestured to the field of markers. 10,000 humans died for us. 10,000. They died in explosions, in the fire, in close combat against an enemy that could not be beaten by any normal means. They died underground in space, on the surface of our world. They died knowing they would die. They went anyway. Tears ran freely down her blue face now. They are not Deathworlders because they come from a world of death. They are Deathworlders because they carry death with them. They are strong enough to kill, strong enough to destroy, but they choose to protect instead. They choose to save. That is what makes them special. That is what makes them heroes. The Valari and the crowd began to chant. It was a word in their language. It meant protector, guardian, savior. They chanted it over and over, their musical voices filling the air. Webb felt uncomfortable. He did not feel like a hero. He felt like a tired old man who had sent too many young people to their deaths. When Kesava finished speaking, it was Webb's turn. He stepped forward, looked out at all those faces, human and alien. I am not good with speeches, he said, so I will keep this short. We came here to do a job, to stop the cascade, to save people who needed saving. We did that job. It cost us. It cost us more than I wanted to pay, but we did it. He looked at the markers, at the names carved into each one. These people died doing something important, something necessary. They died protecting the weak from the strong. They died proving that humanity deserves its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as guardians. Webb's voice got stronger. The galaxy is afraid of us. They call us Deathworlders. They remember that we come from a planet that tried to kill us every day, that we evolved to fight and survive and never give up. They are right to be afraid. We are dangerous, but we are dangerous in the right way. We are dangerous to threats, to tyrants, to things like the cascade that destroy without mercy. He looked directly at the council representatives. We are not asking for thanks. We are not asking for reward, but we are asking for respect. Respect for what we can do when we choose to help instead of harm. The council doubted us. The council wanted us to stand down. If we had obeyed, the Valari would be extinct. Remember that. Remember that sometimes the right thing is not the proper thing. Sometimes you need people willing to get their hands dirty. Counselor Vextar shifted uncomfortably. He knew Webb was right. They all knew. After the speeches, the Valari held a traditional ceremony. They released lights into the sky. One light for each human who had died. 10,000 points of light drifted upward into the evening air. It was beautiful and heartbreaking. Later, Webb met with Sarah Chen privately. They sat in a rebuilt building overlooking the memorial field. The council wants to talk, Chen said. They are scared. Not of the cascade anymore, of us. Of what we proved we could do. Good, Webb said. Let them be scared. Maybe they will think twice before ignoring a cry for help. There is going to be fallout. Political complications. Some species are calling for restrictions on human military operations. They say we are too aggressive, too willing to use force. Webb laughed bitterly. We saved 2 billion people, and they want to restrict us because we made them look bad. Chen sighed. It is more complicated than that. You broke galactic law by using prohibited weapons, nuclear devices, chemical agents, things that have been banned for centuries. Those banned weapons saved lives, Webb said, both human and Valari. I would use them again. I know, and that is what terrifies them. Chen looked at him seriously. Marcus, the galaxy is changing. This operation changed it. Species are starting to question whether the Council's way is the best way, whether peace at any cost is worth it. You started something. I started nothing. I just answered a call for help. That is exactly what I mean. For 3,000 years, the galaxy has been at peace. Real peace, no wars, no conflicts. Species talk and debate and compromise. But that peace came at a price. When something truly dangerous appears, they cannot act. They have forgotten how to fight. How to sacrifice. You reminded them. Webb was quiet. He thought about his crew. About Reeves recovering from her injuries in the medical bay. About Sergeant Morrison, who had lost his entire squad. About all the families on Earth and Mars and Europa who would never see their loved ones again. Was it worth it? He asked quietly. Ask them, Chen said, pointing out the window. Below, Webb could see Valari families walking through the memorial field, parents holding children, elderly leaning on each other. All alive because humans had chosen to fight. Yes, he said. It was worth it. Over the next weeks, the cleanup continued. Human engineers helped rebuild Valari cities. Medical teams treated the wounded, both human and Valari. The two species worked side by side, forming bonds that would last generations. The Cascade's remains were studied. Scientists learned it had been built by a species called the Architects. They had died out millions of years ago, but before they died, they created the Cascade as a test, a way to see if any new species worthy of inheriting their knowledge would emerge. Humanity had passed the test. The Cascade's final transmission included coordinates, locations of Architect ruins, Technology beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Knowledge that could advance every species by centuries. The Council tried to claim it, said it belonged to everyone, but the Velari disagreed. They declared that the knowledge belonged to humanity. It was humanity's reward for passing the test, for being willing to sacrifice everything. The political shockwaves were enormous. Species that had looked down on humans for centuries now had to acknowledge them as equals, as superiors in some ways. Some species were angry, some were afraid, but others were thoughtful. They looked at what humans had done and asked themselves hard questions. Had they become too soft, too afraid of conflict? Had their thousands of years of peace made them weak? Webb announced his retirement after the Velari operation. He was done with war, done with command. He wanted to go home, grow a garden, try to forget the faces of the young Marines he had sent to their deaths. But he knew he never would forget. That was his burden to carry, the burden of command, of making the hard choices. On his last day as captain of the Indomitable, his crew gave him a gift. It was a piece of Cascade metal, polished and engraved. The words said, "To those who answered the call, to those who paid the price, to those who proved we are worthy." Webb held it and cried. He was not ashamed of his tears. They were for the dead, for the brave, for the humans who had shown the galaxy what Deathworlders could really do. Kesava visited him before he left. She brought a gift from the Velari people. It was a crystal. Inside it were the names of every human who had died, preserved forever in light. "We will never forget," she said. "Every Velari child will learn about this, about the day the humans came, about the price they paid. We will tell the story for as long as our species exists." Webb smiled. A real smile. His first in weeks. That is all we can ask for. To be remembered. To have our sacrifice mean something. He left Velari Prime on a transport ship. As they lifted off, he looked down at the planet one last time. It was healing. New buildings rose where old ones had burned. Fields were being replanted. Life was returning. The scars would remain for generations. But so would the lessons. About sacrifice. About courage. About what it meant to protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy had learned that Deathworlders were not monsters. They were guardians. They were the ones who stepped forward when everyone else stepped back. They were the ones who paid the price so others did not have to. And that made all the difference. Humanity had shaken the galaxy to its core. They had shown that sometimes violence was necessary, that sometimes the strong had to fight for the weak, that sometimes you had to break the rules to do what was right. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. They had proven themselves not just as survivors of a death world, but as something more, something better. They had proven they were worthy,